Has completed for you guys, right? You guys have been through Excel.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, great. And today we have assembled here to start with a new module that is SQL, right?
Yeah.
SQL, Structured Query Language. We will get on to SQL. What is SQL? Why SQL? Why are we even studying this for the course, right?
I don't have SQL in my laptop.
Okay, for today's session, it is not a requirement.
Great.
Today, we will go through a lot of theoretical concepts and we will try to understand it in a better sense. From tomorrow, we will start some particular topics where we will also do hands-on. So from tomorrow, I would request you to have SQL downloaded, SQL Server specifically, and SSMS, that is the interface where we will use the SQL queries, right?
So please help us miss how to download and how to get
Okay,
it
so
installed.
I suppose there was a tool download session to help you on the same, but no worries, even if you don't have it installed, we will do it after the session. So when the session concludes and all the students who already
And
have it can leave, I will spend some time with you guys who haven't installed it yet and help you to install the same. That is fine,
thank you.
right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. So before starting, with the database thing and all these things, let us suppose if you were to manage all of the data of a school, like let us say someday you open your own school. So what and how will you manage the data? Like where exactly will you store the data with whatever current knowledge you have? Like don't go into that I will store into cloud, I will store into database. Just whatever computer knowledge you have, and you have to store the data by yourself. You have to manage it completely by yourself, and you do not know cloud computing. So what is the thing that you will use to store all the data for your particular school? Any ideas in your mind? You can also write in the chat box if you are a little bit shy to unmute. I will
I
be
will
taking that.
create a table in Excel and the data.
Okay, so I think most of you will go with Excel, right? I don't think there are any other opinions, like anything apart from Excel that comes to your mind. I think obviously not with a register and a copy. That is old-fashioned way, but I don't think we use it anymore, right? So what ideas do you guys have in your mind when I say that you have to store all of the data of a school that you are running, but with whatever knowledge you have and computer and internet that you can use? Okay. Okay, so one person said Excel and others are not saying anything. So we'll move forward. So starting with database and SQL, let us just go through in 5 to 10 minutes a brief history of what we are about to study and how we came here. So as you already know, initially humans started writing on paper and we used to manage the data on registers and copies and those kind of things, right? And initially there was no corporate when we go back like 100 or 200 years ago. So mostly data was about, government, the people living, the taxes, the population, their religion, their age, and those kind of things. Data was mostly about that. And after we have registers, we move forward to something. Just a second. Saying that in brief history of where we started with data storage, we started with paper. Obviously, you all know that. Second thing that came in like 1890s to 1950s when we did not have a lot of computers, but we shifted from writing things on paper to something called as punch card. Do any one of you have any idea what a punch card is? Anyone here? Okay, I am audible, guys, right? At least, can you give me some response in the chat box? Also, it is completely fine.
Yeah, you
No,
are
sir.
audible.
Okay, so you don't have any idea about punch card, and that is not very important. We are not going to cover punch cards now. But just it was something like OMR sheet. So I think you know what is OMR. In examination, you might have filled one OMR sheet. You have to circle those. You have to encircle those circles with blue pen, and you have to write your name like this, right? So 1, 2, 3, you have to circle it around, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yes.
OMR is what the idea behind punch card was, that we can write things in OMR and it is easier for us to retrieve data. Option Q&A, yes, that is OMR. We still use it in some paper, like I think UPSC or some old organizations still use OMR for exam. I think a lot of them use TCS now, so there is that. So we then proceeded with punch card, which was mostly like OMR. So government started collecting data on the same, but still the issue was you have to have a paper to get that OMR, but it was easier to scan and retrieve the data. Then we started with magnetic storage, like our magnetic tapes, punch cards, So that magnetic thing was the first time when we started storing things digitally in 50s and 70s, especially in USA. In India, it like almost came 10 to 20 years later of what it came in US. And then after 70s and 80s, when people started to have personal computer, like your Windows came, you could have a PC, our own desktop. We started with spreadsheets, which was your Excel. But even with Excel, there were some problems when we were dealing with large amount of data, and when we are especially dealing with relation between the data. So when I have a data of my school, I have different data for the students and their details, like their name, their enrollment number, their parent name, their phone number, their address. So there is a student detail table. Now, when I have the report card, so that is in a different table essentially. I will not create all the details in one Excel sheet. I will create a separate table where I will only write the name, and I will write the marks of those students with enrollment number so I can cross match. Yes, someone wants to ask something. Okay, I think someone noted the mistake. So I was explaining about the school card. So you have different table for the details of the students, you have different table for the scores of the students. Now they are stored in two different tables, and if you want to, let us say I ask you one question that I want to get the phone number of the topper. Then first you go into the table, you in the marks you will check who is the topper, then you will see his name, and then you have to go to another table, and then you have to manually search for his name, and then you can give me his phone number. So there is a two-way process. First you have to go into the marks table to get the topper, and then you have to go into the details table where you get the phone number of the topper. So this was the case with spreadsheets, that when tables are stored in different sheets and they are not connected or related to each other, then it is a little bit difficult to retrieve the data. And then in 70s only, with Excel. Yes, Om Prakash, you are saying something in the chat box. You are saying hello, sir. Okay, hello. Any questions, any doubts?
Hello, sir. Good morning.
Yes, Om Prakash. Good evening.
How are you doing? Actually, are you sharing your screen? Yes,
I have shared my screen, but what I'm explaining now is kind of a brief history or story where I'm just telling you things, not explaining a
Oh,
lot of things, just a little bit story about how we have started. We will understand each of these things, whatever I'm telling, what is a database, what is a relational database. This is just for you to listen and just understand why SQL is there, right? So
okay.
I
Your
hope you,
screen, yeah, I can see your screen
but it is stuck
database.
to a one slide, right? That is where I am. I hope you all are getting what I'm explaining here, right? At least. Even if you're not, this
Only,
is just a basic part where we are just discussing how it went.
okay,
And
okay.
yeah,
But
it's a
you are
brief
sharing
history.
a screen, one second, sir. You are
Yes,
sharing a
I've
screen
shared my screen. Yes.
database. Only I can see your screen.
Yes, that is only what I've shared as of now. When I will explain onto the slides, I will move the slides. Don't worry. It is not your issue. I've just shared a single slide as of now, and that is
No,
static.
I
Okay.
think you are share your like some you will speak and you text visual. So only database I can see a screen. So that is I ask you. Okay.
No, no, not an issue.
Okay, brief me.
Okay. So then we started with SQL, where we could now relate the tables with each other, and we will understand what is relational database. Don't worry about the same. And then big data came, and NoSQL databases are also there, like MongoDB, Cassandra, if you have listened to them. But still, SQL remains, even from 1970s to 2024. It is a very, very good option in databases right now. Even when we talk about this big databases, NoSQL databases that are mostly used for semi-structured or unstructured data, when the data is stored in table, SQL is still the best thing in the market. And it is there because it is easier for people to learn, it is faster to retrieve the data, and it is more efficient as compared to the complex databases that we have now came up with. So that was the brief history about where we started with, from the paper to the that OMR kind of thing that is called as punch card, then to the magnetic strip, then to Excel sheets, and now to SQL. So that was just an introduction about what database is, not database, but how we came here. Now, if you were to define a database for me, can anyone define? Like the definition is written here, but if you want to elaborate, if you want to share your thoughts about when you hear the word database, what comes to your mind?
Yeah, hi. So it is a collection of the data which we can use for our project or for our purpose.
Okay, and how do you define the word data when like
So data is a collection of information. It can be related to person. It can be related to other stuffs like in a company there are many employees are working. So information about those employees that can also be a database, and information about the uh, 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 like you can say the population of India, that is also can be a database.
okay,
Yeah.
great.
So database is a collection of tables.
Okay, it is a
Contain all
collection of tables, Neil is saying. Okay, anyone else?
So it's an collection of information where which we can access it easily, where the data is stored, something like that.
Okay, so basically, in very raw terms, it is a collection of information stored electronically. So when we are talking about database, especially in context of the IT sector, like in today's modern world, it is information stored electronically. So if you are in a library, the library itself is a database. Books are the data, and librarian is the person who will retrieve the data for you. So when you will ask the librarian that I want this book, like let us say engineering mathematics 4 I want, and I want the 2022 version, then the librarian can retrieve it. Either he will pick it out or he will tell you like in this particular side of the library, in these shelves you can find this particular book. So that is what database is. But library is a real world example. In actual world, data is stored in multiple tables and that can be related to each other. And there is SQL that helps you to retrieve the data, and this is what we will understand in the coming slides. So coming on to a database management system. Now database, as you know, coming slides. So coming on to a database management system. Now database, as you know, data is stored somewhere. A management system is a software system that will help us to manage the database, right? So you can store the data in the system, you can retrieve the data, you can and manage the data. Manage the data could be that you can delete it, you can update it. Let us say I want to update my address in my Aadhaar details. So I can put in a request, and the database admin in whoever is dealing with the Aadhaar dataset, he will update my credentials in the Aadhaar database. So that is what a database system provides you. It provides you with a system, a software, a program that can help to manage the database. Right, like example is Netflix video library management system, which can organize the movies and the shows. And whenever you search for a movie, let us say I search for let us say particular movie like Golmaal, like that is the movie that came to my mind, sorry. So you can search for it and you will get 1 2 3 4 whatever is there in Netflix database, and you can then watch the movie. Similar thing actually happens with our Spotify. You get 1 2 3 4 whatever is there in Netflix database, and you can then watch the movie. Similar thing actually happens with our Spotify. So if you use Spotify or YouTube Music, and I think recently you would have gotten your Spotify Wrapped, where you get your top 5 artists, top 5 songs, right? So this also is being retrieved by a simple SQL query by Spotify, and they give us our data back, like what was the top thing. So data is stored, it is being retrieved by SQL, but we will understand what SQL is. So let us have a look at the examples of database management system. So MySQL is common for web application. PostgreSQL, it is open source and used in many enterprises. Microsoft SQL Server is used in large organizations. So these are three examples of database management system, right? So SQL is common here. SQL is a language that is used, but these are three different databases. MySQL is very common. You have seen this dolphin like they have icon. Then Postgres has an elephant like icon. It is open source. Open source basically means it is free to use. There is no copyright. You can use it for any business that you want, right? And Microsoft SQL Server is database management system by Microsoft, as the name suggests, and it is used in large organizations. We will also be in our course using Microsoft SQL Server. So whenever someone will say you, I am using SQL Server, by default he is using a Microsoft SQL Server because that is the most common in the market. MySQL and PostgreSQL does not use the server word. So in any case, if someone asks you what database you are using and the answer is SQL Server, then you should know it is talking about the Microsoft SQL server, right? And that is what we would be using. But if you know one of them, because SQL is common, so if you are good in Microsoft SQL Server, you learn this, you would also be able to do the SQL thing in Postgres and MySQL. There are very small differences, but we would be covering them along with that. I will point it out that thing is particular to SQL Server and this thing is common in all the SQL databases, right? So that is what database management system is about. And now we come to relational database management system, that is RDB. And now we come to relational database management system, that is RDBMS. So RDBMS, when basically we talk about SQL and these kind of databases, these are not DBMS, but these are RDBMS. And this is also important from an interview point of view, that you understand the difference between a DBMS and an RDBMS. So RDBMS is a relational database management system, and it is a system that manages, stores, tables that are related to each other. So because it is relational, the tables are related to each other using foreign keys, and data is stored in tables, rows and columns, relationship between tables. So let us understand this in simpler terms. So let us say, when earlier I told you that I have a student table, right? So what all details should be there in the student table? Anyone? Student details table for my school. What details should I store?
Their demographic details.
What?
Their demographic details.
Okay, so I will say admission number,
Admission number, roll number,
name,
name,
and I
date
will
of
say
birth,
date of birth. I will just say I will just write few things. So I will write father name, and I will write okay, let me use comma so it is a little bit more clear. So name of the student, date of birth, father name, address, and phone number.
Qualification.
Right, that is what I have. Let us say this is enough for a student table in my small school. Right, now there is another table that stored the score of the student. So it would be again admission number, name, marks in, let us say, physics, chemistry, maths, and total marks in percentage. Right, this is the table where I have stored the marks of my student. So these are two different tables, right? And they have different details, but there is something common, that is admission number. So if the person is asking me, the phone number of the topper, so I will have to find out the topper in this table, right? In the marks table, because this table does not have any marks. So I will first find the topper and then I will find his phone number. So these two tables have to have some relation if I want to fetch it directly. And what I can do, I can relate these phone numbers with admission number. Because it is a common column, I can relate these two tables. So this is basically the relation that we talk about. When we have two tables and there is a common column, we can relate them to each other. So if I want to get, let us say, a name of the student, not name is there, let us say address of the student who has scored less than 30 marks, so that I can mail them a letter. I can directly fetch the data from these two tables because now they are related. So I will just write address where marks is greater than or less than 30 and it can fetch me the data. Right? This is the basic idea between relational database, that tables are related. Another example that is given here is that a customer table may have customer detail, order table will have the order details, right? And if you connect both the tables, you can get the details of the order that a customer is ordering. Like I will give you an example. Let us say I have to store order details and product details in two different tables. Why? Because a product can be ordered n number of times. So if in order details, my laptop, let us say my iPhone 15 has been ordered 100 times. And every time iPhone 15 is ordered, I store all the details of iPhone 15, like screen size, price, all the details. Then I'm storing the same details 100 times over and over again. But what I will do, I will instead create a different table. In that table, I will just store the iPhone detail once. And for every order, I will just share a product ID of iPhone 15. And using product ID, whenever I want, I can fetch the detail. Only thing I need to do is connect those tables or to create a relation between two tables. Okay, so that is how a relational database management system works. In very simpler terms, the data is stored in tables and the tables are related to each other using foreign keys, which we will understand later what is a foreign key and why it is used. Okay, so I hope till here things are clear to you. What is a DBMS, what is RDBMS, how they are different. And now let us understand what are rows and columns. So you already know what is a row and a column. I don't need to explain it to you. I think. But in terms of database, especially a relational database, a row is generally referred to as a record in the table and a column is generally referred to as a field in the table. Okay, so a single entry in a table, like one row in a spreadsheet, like your passbook, whenever you will do a transaction, your passbook will get updated, a new row will get inserted. That is your record. And field is your column. That could be your name, phone number, price, product name. These are your columns. So remember this thing. I'm repeating again. Row is a record. Field is a column. Okay. Now comes query. Field is a column. Okay. Now comes query, which is a very important part and which is what we will be doing a lot of times. And when we say we are learning SQL, this Q words here stands for query. So what exactly is a query? It is a way to ask the database for information. So whenever I have this whole amount of data, let us say I'm working in Amazon, I have the data for my customers, the products, the orders, the transaction, a lot of data. And I want to get the details of the customers who have ordered something today. So I will write some query to fetch the data. This command that I will write to fetch the data is called as query. Just asking the database for the data that I want is a query. Okay. And structured query language is a query language again that we